do more than just sit and have coffee here. I'm a consultant to a couple of educational institutions. So I work with Mancosa and Regents. I work with UKZN. I work with all the Crawford primary schools and high schools. And then I also consult to government at the moment on a couple of artificial intelligence projects. So we're building some interesting platforms for the government to help them make better decisions and to kind of speed things up. You know, we all kind of wait for government a lot of the time, and we want to try and obviously using these technologies we have available to us these days, try and kind of make things a bit more streamlined, less corruption, less kind of problems, more kind of data-driven decisions. So everyone's familiar with artificial intelligence here, I'm sure. And everyone's familiar with GPT and ChatGPT.
Yeah, from all over man, guys.
Who can tell me what GPT stands for, though?
Yeah.
What does GPT stand for? GPT. So ChatGPT, we're all using these tools. I'm going to stand over.
All right, thanks, man. Yeah.
So who can tell me what GPT stands for? Anyone? Guess. Yeah.
Basically, ChatGPT is a tool one of used. It's either using Fiverr.
Using, sorry, what?
It's use Fiverr for copywriting, business services, similar to ESS. So that's the idea of what I think it is.
Okay. So it's used in these kind of services.
Yeah, but selling services or skill set that you have, selling them through an app using ChatGPT. It's basically using to illustrate words when you write an essay, using ChatGPT to basically illustrate, to make it simpler in a much more sophisticated way. AI. So basically, it's a smarter way of doing work with services.
There's a few things, 100%. It's a smarter way to kind of get things done. It does kind of like take your words and kind of really kind of find the best way of saying that. But beyond all of that, it's actually what the G in the GPT stands for generatives, because it generates things. It's not magic, so it obviously can't read your head, can't read your thoughts yet. So you've got to give it an input for it to give you an output. And the trick with GPT, if you're going to use it like properly, is to give it as much context as possible. So say I want to come up with a business plan for kind of removing rubbish. That's not going to give it context of where we are. We're in South Africa. We're in Durban. We've got some challenges with rubbish at the moment. So you give it some of that context, and then it learns from that context and gives you the best possible answer. So it generates that answer. So generative with a G, PGP. So P stands for pre-trained. So it's been pre-trained to be able to give you that kind of that answer that's the best answer. It's been trained on a lot of information. It's been trained on scientific journals, academic journals, on legal journals. It's been trained on like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of books. It's been trained on conversations on the internet. It's been trained on a lot of things. So that's what pre-trained. And then the transformer, the T, that stands for transformer, is the algorithm that it's using to be able to make that magic happen. To understand the context of what happens before and what happens after a couple of words that you put in. So it's able to kind of keep its kind of memory and know what you're talking about for a kind of long time. So it's a very useful tool, but a lot of people don't use it correctly. They're using it in just a very simple way of like, tell me what this is, or tell me what that is, or help me do this. Whereas if you give it context, the more you have to talk with it. So on my computer, generally when I use it, I use the Windows and the H button, which allows me to talk to it. So I can sit and have a normal conversation. So recently I had to do an interview on SABC. It was on Sunday morning, a couple of weekends ago. And it was like a 15-minute conversation, and one of the universities asked me to do a talk on what some other academic had written. I was like, Jesus, I don't really know this person's topic. They've written the whole kind of journal, the whole article, and now I must kind of go and talk on their article. I was like, okay, and they were like, well, I'm sure you can work it out. So they kind of like use me as their Swiss Army knife sometimes, you know, because it's kind of like, they know I can get up and just talk about a subject that I know enough about quite comfortably. So I kind of had to now obviously do this on SABC, and I was like trying to convince myself that, no one watches SABC. My friends aren't going to see me. And in that morning I woke up, I kind of was like, okay, let me just kind of get a bit more prepared. So I used my GPT to kind of, and on my phone, I uploaded the document to it, and then I said, read through the the And I said, the SABC didn't send me the questions they were going to ask me. They just said, like, just talk on the document, talk on this article. I was like, all right, sure, no problem. But it's nice to know kind of what you're more or less going to get asked when you're on live TV, so you don't make kind of like a stumbling and you're like, you don't like stumble over your words, etc. So all I used was my GPT to basically do a mock interview for me. I said, okay, ask me questions that they're most likely to ask me based on this article, and then listen to my response, because I was just talking to my phone. So I had it lying on my chest, I was lying in bed still. And I was like, okay, what are the questions they're going to ask me? When I answer, I want you to then critique my answer. Tell me what's wrong with my answer. Tell me where I can improve on my answer. And then obviously give me feedback that I can use for my next answer, and then try it again, and then judge me again. So I was going back and forth. It came up with like 5 or 6 questions, and I was just going back and forth with it, using it as almost like a mock interview type scenario. But it was quite useful because it was talking to me. It wasn't like I had to kind of read it and then try and like respond by typing. So I found a way to obviously use it more naturally, like as I'm talking to an expert on a particular field, rather than, again, having to type this out slowly and my thoughts are getting mixed up because I'm kind of like typing slower than I can think in a way. So it's kind of, if you're using it correctly, you can use it very, very efficiently to make a lot of kind of very quick decisions and to help you push out a lot of kind of useful information in a short period of time. So like I mentioned, I'm doing some contracted to kind of one of the government departments at the moment, working on an AI system for them. And even that was like, okay, they've asked me to do this. I understand enough about the AI, the tools and the technology that's out there to kind of feel my way through to be able to achieve what we need to achieve. Because obviously this AI industry is quite new to everyone in the world at the moment. So it's a lot of people don't quite know how to kind of harness the power of it effectively and to use it efficiently, because obviously it's a deep topic. But I recommend everyone go and look into it. Everyone go and look into the technology behind GPT. It's kind of like Bitcoin. Bitcoin, the technology behind it is blockchain.
Yeah.
So that open ledger was the technology that was groundbreaking and revolutionary, because it was a way of obviously making transactions transparent and allowing people to kind of send money all over the world to pay for services. It's the same thing with the AI. Don't get lost in the one particular GPT application, like the chat GPT application. The power of the system, the power of the technology that's out and freely available for everyone to use is going to open up so many opportunities for people if you're willing and if you're ready to take on those opportunities. If that makes sense. So don't just get stuck in the one kind of area of what these AI tools are doing. Use it in a wider way, and use it in a way where you're giving it, like I say, as much context to help you as possible. So there's obviously a lot of very, very useful stuff that's coming out at the moment, and I've kind of been saying to people, because I deal with a lot of students every day, and I say to them, like, look guys, don't use it as a cheat code, don't use it to help you pass your exams in the sense that you get it to write your essays for you. Use it in a way, if you want to learn from it, from a student point of view, I was like, get it to talk about the topics that you should cover in your essay. Say, what should I cover in this kind of article, in this essay that I'm writing for my paper? And then you fill in the blanks, and you can get it to check and respond and see how you're doing, but don't use it to cheat and get it to do all your work. And the same with, if you want to use it to kind of put a business plan together and pitch an idea, use it in a way where you say, okay, well, I'm going to pitch this idea to these types of investors and these types of people. What are the kind of questions that they're going to ask me if I propose this to them? And then it's like, oh, here's the top things that